Welcome to Easy Classic Stories. This is a retelling of Alice's Adventures in Wonderland, a novel by Lewis Carroll. Alice's Adventures in Wonderland is a fun book by Lewis Carroll. It's about a girl named Alice who falls into a strange world called Wonderland. She meets funny characters like the Mad Hatter and the Cheshire Cat. The book is very successful. Many people love it. It has been turned into movies and cartoons. It's a silly and exciting story that kids and adults enjoy. Now listen carefully to the story. At the end, we'll have an exercise on key events to help test your understanding. Alice was sitting by the river with her sister, feeling bored. Suddenly she saw a white rabbit wearing a waistcoat and checking a pocket watch. "Oh dear, I shall be late," the rabbit muttered. Curious, Alice followed the rabbit and saw it pop down a large rabbit hole. Without thinking, Alice jumped in after it. She fell slowly down the hole, passing shelves with maps and pictures. She tried to look at the pictures, but everything was moving too fast. After a long fall, she landed softly on a heap of leaves. Alice found herself in a long hallway with many locked doors. She tried each door, but they were all locked. At the end of the hallway, she saw a small door leading to a beautiful garden. Alice wanted to go into the garden, but she was too big to fit through the small door. She noticed a little glass table with a tiny golden key. She picked up the key and unlocked the small door, but she was still too big to go through. On the table, she found a small bottle labeled, "Drink Me." Alice drank it and started to shrink. She was now small enough to go through the door, but she had left the key on the table, which was now too high for her to reach. Alice saw a small cake on the table labeled, "Eat Me." She ate it and grew very tall, hitting her head on the ceiling. She grabbed the key and shrank again by drinking from the bottle. Finally, she was the right size to go through the small door into the garden. But when she opened the door, she saw a beautiful large garden with bright flowers and tall trees. She was excited to explore, but suddenly she started to grow again. She grew so big that she filled the entire hallway. Alice was stuck and didn't know what to do. She started to cry, and her tears filled the hallway, making a large pool of water. As she floated in her own tears, she saw the white rabbit again, running past with his watch. "Oh, the Duchess! The Duchess! Oh, won't she be savage if I've kept her waiting?" the rabbit said, rushing away. Alice swam after the rabbit, hoping to find a way out of the strange place she had fallen into. Alice found herself swimming in a pool of her own tears. She saw a mouse swimming nearby. "Oh, Mouse, do you know the way out of this pool?" Alice asked. The mouse looked at her but said nothing. Suddenly, many other animals fell into the pool: a duck, a dodo, a lory, and an eaglet. They all splashed around trying to stay afloat. The dodo suggested, "The best way to get dry is to have a caucus race." "What is a caucus race?" Alice asked. "It's a race where everyone runs in a circle and everyone wins," the dodo explained. So they all ran around in a circle trying to dry off. After the race, the dodo said, "Everyone has won, and everyone must have prizes." But there were no prizes, so Alice gave them some candies from her pocket. The mouse then said, "I'll tell you a story to pass the time." But when the mouse started speaking, Alice couldn't understand a word. The mouse was speaking in French. Alice tried to listen, but it was too hard. The mouse noticed Alice's confusion and said, "You don't understand French?" No, I'm sorry, Alice replied. The mouse looked offended and said, Then I shall tell you a story in English. But before the mouse could start, Alice remembered a poem she had learned. She began to recite, You are old, Father William, the young man said. The mouse interrupted. That's not the right way to say it. You're saying it all wrong. Alice felt bad and stopped reciting. The mouse swam away, still looking offended. Alice watched as the other animals also swam away, leaving her alone in the pool. She looked around and saw a path leading out of the water. She swam towards it, ready to find her way out of this strange place. Alice walked down the path and came to a mushroom. Sitting on top was a large caterpillar smoking a hookah. The caterpillar looked at Alice and said, Who are you? I'm Alice, she replied. The caterpillar blew out some smoke and said, That's not important. What matters is who you will become. Alice was confused. What do you mean? She asked. The caterpillar pointed to the mushroom and said, One side will make you grow taller, and the other side will make you grow shorter. Then it crawled away, leaving Alice alone. Alice broke off a piece from one side of the mushroom and nibbled it. She grew taller. Then she broke off a piece from the other side and nibbled it. She shrank back to her normal size. She felt happy that she could now control her size. As she walked further, she saw a grinning Cheshire cat sitting on a tree branch. The cat said, Hello, Alice. Would you like to know a secret? What secret? Alice asked. The cat grinned wider and said, If you don't know where you are going, any road will take you there. Alice thought about this and said, But I want to go somewhere specific. The cat laughed and said, Then you should ask the March Hare. He lives in that house over there. The cat pointed to a small house nearby. Alice thanked the cat and walked towards the house. As she looked back, the cat started to disappear, leaving only its grin behind. Alice shook her head in wonder and knocked on the door of the March Hare's house. She heard voices inside and opened the door to see what was happening. Alice entered the house and saw a large table set for tea. Around the table sat the March Hare, the Hatter, and a sleepy dormouse. They all looked at Alice and said, No room, no room. There's plenty of room, Alice said, sitting down. The Hatter looked at her and said, Have some tea. Alice looked at the table and saw that all the cups were empty. I don't see any tea, she said. There isn't any, the Hatter replied. It's always tea time, but we never have tea. Alice was confused but decided to join in. The March Hare offered her some bread and butter, but there was none. The Dormouse kept falling asleep and waking up suddenly. The Hatter turned to Alice and asked, Why is a raven like a writing desk? Alice thought for a moment and said, I don't know. Why is a raven like a writing desk? The Hatter smiled and said, I haven't the slightest idea. Everyone laughed, and Alice felt even more confused. The March Hare looked at his watch and said, It's always 6 o'clock now. Alice had enough of the nonsense. She stood up and said, This is the stupidest tea party I've ever been to. The Hatter and the March Hare looked offended. Then you can leave, the Hatter said. Alice walked out of the house, feeling relieved to be away from the madness. She saw a door in a nearby tree and opened it. Inside, she found herself back in the long hallway from the beginning of her adventure. She walked down the hallway, wondering what would happen next. Alice found herself in a beautiful garden. She saw a large crowd of people and animals playing croquet. The Queen of Hearts was there, shouting orders. "Off with their heads!" she screamed at the players. Alice watched as the players used flamingos as mallets and hedgehogs as balls. The game was chaotic, with everyone running around and the Queen shouting more orders. Alice was invited to play, but she found it very difficult. The flamingo she was using kept looking up and moving its head, making it hard to hit the hedgehog. The Queen noticed Alice and said, "Who are you?" "I'm Alice," she replied. The Queen looked at her and said, "Off with her head." Alice felt scared, but tried to stay calm. She saw the King of Hearts nearby and asked him for help. The king was small and quiet, and he said, "Don't worry, she says that to everyone." Alice felt a little better and continued to watch the game. Suddenly the Queen shouted, "Off with their heads!" again, and everyone stopped playing. The Queen looked angry and said, "This game is over, let's have a trial instead." Everyone followed the Queen to a courtroom. Alice saw the Griffin and the Mock Turtle there. The Griffin said, "Come with us, Alice, we'll tell you a story." Alice followed them to a quiet corner of the garden. The Mock Turtle started to cry and said, "I used to be a real turtle, but now I'm just a mock turtle." The Griffin said, "Don't be sad, let's dance the lobster quadrille instead." Alice watched as the Griffin and the Mock Turtle danced a strange dance, throwing lobsters around. She felt confused but also amused by the silly dance. After the dance, Alice heard the Queen shouting again. She knew she had to go back to the courtroom for the trial. Alice followed the Griffin and the Mock Turtle back to the courtroom. The Queen of Hearts was already there, looking angry. The trial was about to begin. The Knave of Hearts was accused of stealing the Queen's tarts. The King of Hearts was the judge and the White Rabbit was the herald. "Oh yes! Oh yes! Oh yes!" the rabbit called out, trying to quiet the crowd. The first witness was the Mad Hatter. He said, "I saw the knave stealing the tarts." But when the king asked him what day it was, the Hatter said, "It's always tea time." The Queen shouted, "Off with his head!" Next, the cook was called as a witness. She said, "I saw the knave stealing the tarts too." But when the king asked her what she was doing, she said, "Stirring the soup." The Queen shouted, "Off with her head!" Alice was called to be the next witness. She felt nervous but tried to stay calm. The king asked her, "What do you know about the tarts?" Alice said, "I don't know anything about the tarts. I didn't see the knave steal them." The Queen shouted, "Off with her head!" Alice felt scared but also angry. She said, "You're all just playing a silly game. This trial is nonsense." Suddenly, Alice started to grow bigger. She grew so big that she filled the entire courtroom. Everyone looked up at her in surprise. The Queen shouted, "Off with her head!" one last time. But Alice said, "You're just a pack of cards. I'm not afraid of you anymore." As she said this, the Queen, the King, and all the other characters turned into playing cards and flew up into the air. Alice watched as the pack of cards flew away, feeling a sense of relief. She looked around the garden, now quiet and peaceful. She took a deep breath and felt herself starting to shrink back to her normal size. As she shrank, she felt something soft beneath her. She looked down and saw that she was lying on the grass by the river, where she had first seen the white rabbit. Her sister was sitting nearby reading a book. Alice rubbed her eyes and sat up. Her sister looked at her and said, "Alice, you've been asleep for a long time. Did you have a nice dream?" Alice thought about her adventure in Wonderland. She remembered the white rabbit, the caterpillar, the Cheshire cat, the mad tea party, the Queen of Hearts, and the trial. It all seemed so strange and wonderful. She smiled and said, "Yes, I had a very strange dream. I went down a rabbit hole and met all sorts of peculiar creatures. There was a tea party where they never had tea, and a queen who kept shouting, 'Off with their heads!'" Her sister laughed and said, "That sounds like a very interesting dream. Maybe you should write it down." Alice nodded and said, "Maybe I will. It was such an adventure." She stood up and stretched, feeling happy to be back in the real world. She looked at the river and the trees, feeling grateful for the simple beauty around her. Her sister closed her book and said, "Let's go home, Alice. It's getting late." Alice took her sister's hand, and they walked home together, leaving the dream of Wonderland behind. As they walked, Alice knew she would never forget her adventure, but she was glad to be back in her own world, where things made sense and she could be herself. Great job sticking with the story all the way to the end. It's time to review the key ideas with a fun multiple-choice quiz. You'll find the answers in the comment section. Take your time with the questions, and don't forget to leave a comment below to let us know if you enjoyed the story. Your feedback helps us improve. If you liked it, show your support by hitting the like button. It really makes our day. And don't forget to subscribe for more stories. Thank you so much for being with us.